Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on Create Your Comeback Success Story. Setback is set up for comeback. I'm Bob Hogan, the webinar coordinator today and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County. I'll be your host, and our presenter is Dr. Ileana Kotulich. More on Ileana in just a minute. This webinar is being done in collaboration with the Monroe Chamber of Commerce and the Edith Wheeler Memorial Library. In that regard, I'd like to invite Beth Stoller from the Monroe Chamber to also give some brief introductory remarks. Beth?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Bob. I am Beth Stoller, and I'm Operations and Event Manager for the Monroe Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Chamber, the Library, and SCORE, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar. For the last several years, we three organizations have come together to bring you great business-driven topics to help you to learn and grow as business professionals. Today, we added one more partner in our co-sponsorship. We are pleased to welcome the Monroe Economic Development Commission. They have partnered with us for this 6-week Build Your Business workshop series. A few months ago, the Economic Development Commission and the Monroe Chamber sent a survey out to the Monroe businesses asking how we can better assist you in this business environment of today. We asked several questions about how you promote your business, what your top priorities are for future growth, and we received over 100 replies. This Build Your Business program was created from the responses for that questionnaire. The series begins today and will continue for the next 5 weeks, alternating on Thursdays between noon and 6 p.m. start times so that we can accommodate your schedules. Yes, these are being recorded and you can grab the recording a couple days from now, but I recommend that you sign up for them right away. So check your calendar and sign up for them after this session is over so that you can attend and be live in person. We're going to be covering topics such as sales versus marketing, social media, how does that fit into marketing, financing your small business, e-commerce, and the important topic about trusted advisors. Which brings us back to today's topic, creating your own comeback, how to turn your setbacks into success. Dr. Ileana Kotulich is the real deal, and I'm not the one who's officially introducing her, but I can share that when she speaks, I listen. Soon you're going to hear the amazing story about what she's done in her business before COVID, and more importantly, through COVID. So let me not hold us up any longer. I'm going to turn this back over to Bob. And again, thank you for attending.
Great, thanks very much, Beth. Now I'd just like to give you some brief information on SCORE. SCORE is a nonprofit national partner of the SBA, and locally here at SCORE Fairfield County, we have over 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. And we provide 3 value-added services that you can see on the screen. The first is one-on-one business mentoring, and you can access that either by face-to-face, video, email. And you can sign up for mentoring by using the yellow bit.ly link that you see on the screen, or you can go to our website and click on Request a Mentor. Secondly, we offer a wide range of business education programs like the one today, roughly about 100 throughout the year. And lastly, we offer extensive resources on our website, including access to subject matter experts. Our next live webinar at SCORE is next Wednesday, February 23rd at noon, and the topic is Google Tools for Optimizing Your SEO with Nalini Gulzaran presenting. And again, you can find more specifics on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org. And if you're on our website, you can also access a large number of archived webinars that you can see on demand. Just some logistics about today's event. We have set aside time for questions at the end of the presentation. So if you have a question, you can type it in at any time using the Q&A button that you can find if you hover at the bottom of your screen. Our webinar will end promptly at 1 o'clock to respect your time. And as Beth mentioned, the session is being recorded and the link to the recording will be available on the fairfieldcounty.score.org website within the next day or two. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. Ileana Kotulich. Dr. Kotulich is an entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience, a published author, and a business coach. Today, she is going to share her comeback journey before and after the pandemic. Her passion is to inspire people to understand themselves better maximize their potential, and become their best. Ileana believes with the right assessment tools and introspection, you can maximize your potential, and she will be sharing the tools that help her live her passion to help you bring together seemingly disjointed puzzle pieces to create a life you love. I'll now turn it over to Ileana. Ileana, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Bob. And thank you so much for being able to kick off this incredible opportunity. I am so thrilled to be with you today, and I love to share my story. And the reason I love to share my story is because I love to give people hope. I have been with Mary Kay Cosmetics for 25 years. Prior to that, I was a child psychologist. Prior to that, I was told I wasn't college material. So my journey in my life has really been ups and downs, ins and outs, on and off. And part of what happens to me during this journey is really what you're seeing today. You're not seeing the full me even 59 years ago when I was born. You're seeing the process. And I think that's part of what happens to us, is that we need to develop as we go on our journey. So the book that I wrote, Get Your Head On Straight, Put Your Heart in the Right Place so Your Feet Can Go Where They're Supposed to, was really kind of a turning point in my life where I started to realize, what really am I supposed to be doing in this earth? And how can I take all of the lessons and all the good and the bad that's happened to me and turn it around? You see, when I was in grade school, I didn't do well because my parents are Cuban immigrants. And so we spoke Spanish at home all the time. I never had really good vocabulary. And back in the 60s, you just sat at your desk and did work. If it was a collaborative type of education, I probably would have learned more because I would have learned from other people. I am definitely about relating with people. So you can imagine if I was reading a sentence and I didn't know a word, I skipped it. Well, that really messes up your comprehension. And so I had to really struggle, never feeling smart. In fact, I kind of felt dumb most of my life. It wasn't until I was a senior in high school that I had a professor who taught collaboratively. It was a biology class. I got a good grade. I thanked him, and he actually said, I didn't do it, you did it. That was the first time in my life that I realized I was in control of my grades. Can you imagine a senior in high school? I was told I wasn't college material, and I wasn't. I don't blame that counselor because I really wasn't putting forth. Okay, I did well in Spanish. I got a good grade in that class, but that was easy. I didn't even do well in gym. What I found was that my parents decided to send me to college, Sacred Heart University, which back then was a commuter school. I went to college. That is really where I learned to get confidence. That's where I learned how to study, how to write papers, and really just the potential in me that came out is really where it all started for me. Here's the funny part is that I never knew I was going to go on to get a degree in school psychology, become a school psychologist. And then I went on and became a clinical psychologist and went for a doctorate. And even that decision to become a doctor in psychology was kind of like a whim. And it's like, well, I love learning now, so I might as well just have it go toward a degree. That's how it evolved. From there, when I got introduced to Mary Kay, loved what it was all about. I thought it was about selling lipstick, and it's not. It's about selling confidence. But the amount of people that I can change their lives by just empowering them with a lipstick or with skincare or just building up them as a person really started to drive me. And then all this journey in Mary Kay, because I ended up leaving psychology really quickly within 18 months of being in Mary Kay. I let licensing certification go, never looked back. That's a decision. When you have to make a final decision and you're not going back, you approach the future a lot differently. And that was the turning point for me when I started to see the potential that I can do with people. And the book really came about after a lot of family tragedies and difficulties that we had, that I started to really see through those difficulties. It's got to be a better way. And so the book was really a way of just kind of sharing my story in hopes that people would look at it and say, all right, I guess that will help. So I was on my groove, definitely top of my game. And then more tragedy happened in the family. And then there's another dip. But see, here's the thing is that I am the type of person that I'm going to get right back up. You may not be that way. You may be someone who kind of needs to go through a pity party, or you need to kind of have processing all of those things that happened. And that's okay. But the key is to get back up. And so by getting back up and really trying to figure out how you can move forward and make it better, that was the key. So here I was back and getting my way back up again. Pandemic hits. Now, I don't know about you all, but when this was coming, I really wasn't really expecting it to be 2 years or even a year. I really thought it was just like a couple of months. I did not understand the severity of it. And most people I think would agree. So here's what happened is that when it launched, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to do this business now that I can't go out? How am I going to learn all this virtual? How am I going to move the product? How am I going to have enough product? All of these things started flowing, and it was pretty crazy. And I'm sure everybody responded differently to this pandemic. And I just love this pictures here because it really shows some people just put the covers over their head. Some people became very, very distraught. Some people became angry. Some people became confused. We all had different reactions. Here's the thing is that we could have stress increase and you can respond to it positively or negatively. Positively, you could redirect and pivot. And that's kind of what I did. I was like, all right, I have to figure out a different way of doing this. And I was determined to do it. The negative for some people when stress went up is to become paralyzed. They don't know what to do. And they're going to just kind of wait to see what happens. Now, if you have low stress, then you can get creativity. Now, some people now had an easy schedule. They're not commuting 4 hours a day. They're home with their families now. The life became different. So stress reduced in the sense of what the home is providing. And so when you have lower stress, the positivity of that is creativity. And the negativity of that is that you might become a little lazy. Like people stayed in pajamas for a long time. And I will tell you, I was doing appointments with my pajama bottoms on, definitely. But here's what happened is that when you adapt, then you start to learn how to create systems. That's the positive. And you avoid that laziness and you avoid getting into those corners that you can't get back out of. It's really about learning how to expand your mind, how to expand your business. And that's basically what I did. I love this next slide because some people hit the stop button. Some people hit the panic button. Some people are still hitting the panic button and other people hit the reset button. And you can see with looking at people's stories, which button they hit. And this is what I wanted to share with you today. It doesn't matter which of these buttons you hit, because today I'm hoping that it's the reset button for you. And I think that with that reset button, it's going to help you look at things differently, which is going to allow you to improve. All right. We all are on a journey. And so one of the things that I'm going to propose here is that our life, the journey that we were on before the pandemic, was either leading us into a hot mess, or it was leading us into a major success, or it was really leading us into more confusion and more backroads. So that's something to keep in mind, that what's happening before really just got really exaggerated during the pandemic. So this detour that we took, some of us embraced it, some of us didn't. And what I actually found is that I started to think, all right, how am I going to process this for myself? And then I have a team and I have a whole bunch of customers. Now I had to redo everything. So this is what I started to do. I started to sit down and think, okay, let me really process all of this about myself. I know the difficulties that I've had in my life. How did I get out of that? These were all the things that were happening to me, my past experience and crisis. Because let's face it, we're either in a crisis, going in one, or coming out of one. And I really had to think. And what I thought today, I was like, let me explain to you all about how the mind works. I'm going to start there because I really think that it's so important. And it's the psychologist in me, I guess. What I want you to understand is that our mind has so much stuff going on at the same time. Like it is a circuit city in our head. There's constantly neurons and electrical impulses that are firing and telling us what to think and what to do. And even now, your conscious mind right now is listening to all of this. Here's the thing. Our unconscious is when we're asleep, but our subconscious, this is an area where I really want to share this with you and blow you away. I want to tell you that all of these slides are going to be available to you. So don't try to write everything down. I would rather you just kind of sit back and listen so that you can kind of really get a sense of what I'm saying, because all you have to do is email me later on and I will give you all the slides so that you'll have them. You don't have to write them down. I know that that's something I would want. But understand here that what I'm going to talk about now is some ways it's a little complicated, but I think that it's going to give you a good theme. So we have our brain, right side, left side. Our left hemisphere takes care of our right side of our brain, and our right hemisphere takes care of our left side of the brain. So the left side is more about logic and reasoning and writing, calculating, tasks, things like that. The right brain is where the emotions, the intuition, the creativity, the artistic imagination, that's where that happens. Okay, so you got that. Now here's the thing. The first 6 years of a child's life, it's like a tape recorder. So everything it sees, smells, touches, experiences, any way, whatever it hears, whatever's being downloaded into the brain before the consciousness of the child is even made apparent is what's happening. So imagine the things that we're seeing. Imagine the things that our children are seeing. So remember that, because I'm going to show you how this has an impact on us. Now, the subconscious mind is our database. So this is a part of the mind where it's downloading the different things that we've seen and keeping it there, and our emotion that's attached to it. And it's kind of formed at really at the end of the third trimester of pregnancy, all the way for the first 7 years. Here's the thing. Psychology actually is revealing that 70% of these recordings are disempowering or limiting. And so when I look back, when I was young, when I wasn't feeling confident, can you imagine if I had kept that record playing in my subconscious all the time? I wouldn't be where I am today. I listened to the people who told me, you can't work full time and go get a doctorate. And I did. It was the hardest 2.5 years ever, because I had to go twice a week for 2.5 years to the Bronx to go get my doctorate. But this is how much of an impact it has. And so if you're not even conscious of the subconscious, you don't even know what's affecting you. Now, the subconscious mind causes you to feel emotional. It's physically uncomfortable. This is where we talk to our comfort zone. But here's the thing, is that the sense of fear and discomfort are psychological signs that our subconscious mind is being activated. So when the pandemic hit, if your first response was, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? That was the subconscious that was like, okay, I smell something here and it's not going to be good, so hang on. Or other people where they're constantly telling themselves, you can do it, you can do it. We're like, we're going to figure out a way. It doesn't mean one person is better than the other. It's just because of what's been programmed in your subconscious. Now, the function of the subconscious is to store and retrieve this data. So the memories, the habits, the beliefs, self-image, all of these things are programmed in here, but it's designed to protect us. It's actually to observe our surrounding and kind of let us know, oh, I see something coming up there. But most of the time it's a lie if we've programmed it that way. And so without the conscious mind, the subconscious could kind of take over. That's kind of frightening, right? All right. So this is something from Earl Nightingale. I love this quote, because what he says is, whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become a reality. And this is true whether it's positive or negative. So understand the things that you're putting in your mind, the things that you're reading, the things that you're listening to are all impacting you. So if you're afraid, listen and watch things that are going to make you feel stronger, because otherwise you're just feeding the subconscious that negative part, which is going to make it difficult. All right. So that's all I want to say about the brain. Now let's talk about styles. The DISC has been a signature for me. This is something that I love to talk about because I love to help people understand themselves. And I think that when you know yourself, and then you can learn how to identify who's in front of you, and you present information or you're relating and communicating to that person in their style, you have the connection. And I think that's so important. And so I'm not going to get into a lot of detail with this. I put it all on this beautiful screen here so that you can see there's left brain, right brain. I call the DC, where it's more task-oriented, left brain, and then the influential and steadiness are more about people-oriented and relating. Then you have the two on the top are faster paced, two on the bottom are slower paced. And we have all four of these essentially, but one or two are usually more developed than the other. And those one or two is going to really determine how we are communicating. So if you have more of that detail and quality control, conscientious personality, that means that you're going to present things in a lot of details. But if you're talking to someone who is all about how we're relating and emotional and excitement, and you're trying to give them all the details, they're not going to know how to receive that. They're going to think, oh, that's a little too many details. And the opposite is true. If someone is just always talking about how great everything is, and you're talking to someone who really needs the detail, you're going to make that a little bit difficult for them. Now, where the things have some difficulty is when you have the opposites. So if you have fast-paced left, and then you have slow-paced right, that's where it can start to have a little bit of some difficulties. And something I always share, My mother is a dominant steadiness person. My father is an influential, conscientious. That's why I became a psychologist. I learned at a very young age with my mom that if she was having a good day, I could be cute. But if she was having a bad day, I had to be perfect. And I knew how to read that. And I learned how to use that to my advantage because I was all about relating to people and making them feel good. That was the key. So DISC is an assessment that you can take. I have a real quick one that you can take, or you can take a pure profile. It's a very, very intense profile that's going to tell you the percentage of each one of these, and it creates a certain profile. It's very, very revealing because it helps you to understand yourself. Because when you're trying to be somebody else and someone else's style, it doesn't work as well. All right, next thing. This was the newest thing, probably about 10 years ago that I took the Clifton Strengths domains. If you have not heard of this, this is an incredible tool to use. You go online, you take an assessment. I would definitely do the $49 one where they give you then the results of all 34 strengths or talents. I like to call them talents. So these are then categorized into 4 different domains: executing, getting the job done; influencing, how much you can kind of influence people to do things; relationship building, how connected you are with people; and then strategic thinking. How do you actually think beyond, like forecast? Here's the thing, is that we do not realize that this is how we perform. The DISC is how we communicate, but this is how we perform. So let's say you have a job, in my case, for example, that I need really all 4. And although my strategic thinking, I really only in my top 10 have 1, it's my number 2. So I'm able to utilize all of these things to really create my success that I've had in the last 2 years. My business doubled. So for me, the pandemic has been the best thing ever because it allowed me the time now to sit down, get creative, create the systems, and then inspire the people and work with the people and connect with the people. That's what made the difference. Now, you may be more on the left brain side where it's all about strategic, and that's the same thing. You would then create those programs and then understand how you're going to communicate them so that the person receiving it is going to get it. That's the key. All right. Other pieces of the puzzle, because I like to look at our life as a puzzle and we're putting it all together. This is motivators and values, so important. Motivation is what gets us going, what really propels us into action. So do you seek pleasure or do you avoid pain? Do you play to win or play not to lose? Big difference. Are you fear of missing out? Values are those things that you really believe in. I found out very early on in my business that I'm not money motivated. I started to realize that I need to have money because we have to work to have money, but I was all about service. And so what I did was create more service so that then I got paid for it. And I didn't look at it as getting paid. I looked at it as providing the service. And so I turned that around. Now, you may be the opposite. You may be very money motivated. And so when you have money, what can you do with that money, right? Money can provide you more options. Money doesn't buy you happiness, but it gives you choices. So then you turn it around that way. Other pieces of the puzzle that shape us are things that our environment that we grew up in, that we're in right now. You know, all of us in the pandemic that we were closed in, not every household was a peaceful household. Some of it was pretty bad. And there were things that were happening that were in the past, a teacher would notice and they would have interventions. There was a lot of children that were very, very abused during that time. And there were wives and husbands. There was a lot of things going on behind closed doors. But for some people, they took the opportunity to really embrace family time. They got puppies and they had dinners together and they had to create fun. All of these things shaped us. So what's happened in the past, and then as you moved into the pandemic, how you respond to crisis was going to determine a lot. And I think in the beginning, everyone kind of like, oh, sorry, I can do this, I can do this. And then it got a little difficult there. And then last summer, we got to go out a little bit and then we had to come back in again. And the uncertainty and media wasn't helping. It was just creating more fear. These are the things that you have to realize that definitely have an impact on how you think and how you feel. I love to talk about balance, not as a scale. I love to talk about balance, about gears. Each one of these gears represents an area in your life. It could be health, it could be finances, it could be career, it could be family, it could be spiritual. And so each one of those gears by itself has to be balanced. And what do I mean by that is, what would you love? What's your ideal health goal? What's your ideal financial goal? And then that's what goes in that gear. So this is what it's supposed to look like, because when you can do that with every facet of your life, then they all work together. But if one of these has a big notch in it, and every time it goes through, it's clunk, clunk, it's gonna kind of be an interruption. So understand that balance isn't making everything work. I remember when I was a psychologist and I would be driving to work and I'd be like, all right, I have both kids in the car. I'm good. I can get there, because it was very hard to manage 2 children, working full time. I did a lot of crisis work. My last 3 years was all suicidal, homicidal, sexually, physically abused kids, figuring out treatments for them. So it was an intense job. But what I found was that every week I couldn't be all 3. I couldn't be a great mom and a great wife and a great therapist. One kind of had to give. I just got really clever on how to rotate it so that it wasn't 2 weeks in a row. That's how I figured out balance, was that I couldn't do it all. I could only do my best. And that made the difference for me. This next one, emotional intelligence. This is something that I have really been focusing on a lot, because part of what happened to me in the pandemic is that I am the type of person who I love to give of myself. And I started to have to make sure that I was giving of myself to those people who really wanted to receive it and were going to do something with it, not just take it from me. So this is part of the enabling, and part of the family crisis that we had to deal with, was all that, was thinking that by helping, I was going to make that person be okay. And if someone does not want help, doesn't matter what you do. And I started to look at, what is it? It's the emotional intelligence. How do you respond to stress? How do you respond to something that's happened that you have no control over? Because that says a lot about you. And this is an area sometimes that it's the subconscious that took over. Oh, here we go again. It's going to happen. Or somebody else might be like, oh, no, I'm not going to cross that line again. So this is something to never ignore, because your self-awareness and how you behave, how you get motivated, the empathy that you have, and your ability to engage with other people really can have an impact. And I think looking at all of these puzzle pieces coming together, these are all the things that I see that are really part of how you can combine so that you get a better idea of yourself. Because if you don't know, all right, how did my past affect me? What am I saying to myself when I'm alone, or something disappoints me? Or what am I saying to myself when something good happens? Do I say, oh my gosh, there's something else good that's going to happen? Or am I saying, this is going to stop? I just know that now doom is going to happen. You will be amazed when you really start to now consciously think about what that little voice in your head is saying for all little things. And what are you putting? What kind of movies are you watching? What kind of shows are you watching? My big thing now with this TikTok, if my kids were little, they're 30 and 27 now, but if they were little, I would never have them. That is like a 20-second of something negative, because there's a lot of negative things. I mean, there's a lot of cute things and good things. I don't want to minimize that, but there's a lot of things there that are very, very raw kind of emotion that's going out there that I wouldn't want my kids looking at, even a high school kid looking at that, because at that age, you're very, very self-conscious, and now you're going to become more self-conscious. That to me is detrimental. So understanding all of the things that you have that create who you are meant to be. Now, some of our puzzle pieces, sometimes we have people that destroy a puzzle piece, or we put it in the wrong way and it's just not fitting. We can't figure it out. This is where I'm feeling that if you can take all of these different assessments, and that's part of what I do when I do the coaching, is to just help you like get all that and now put it all together, because your action plan should come after you know really what makes you click, what makes you motivated, what stops you. Because if you don't know those things, you're going to keep falling into the same trap. Unfortunately, insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. What I found here is these are the 5 things in my business. And this can be translated into any type of business, whether it's a service that you're providing or a business that you're doing. It could be your relationships, how your work environment is. If you're working for somebody else, same type of thing. Because if you're working for somebody, then it's how do you plug into that office? How do you contribute so that you feel like you've contributed something? I know now for myself, being an entrepreneur, I could never go work for anyone else. Like once you become an entrepreneur, that's it. And so these were the 5 areas that I really had to look at. All right, how am I going to keep my lead generation going? Because now I can't go out and just talk to people, to rely on social media. I have to rely on my customers. So that is number 1, figuring out leads generation. Second is booking clients and appointments. Third is selling the product or service. And here's the thing, if you don't have leads, you don't have bookings. You can't make appointments with people. If you don't have appointments, you can't sell. Right? The follow-up is key. If you hear anything today, know that is in the follow-up. It is in the follow-up and how many times you touch them. I'm going to show you some amazing statistics later on this very thing. And then finally, systems and tracking. Systems and tracking is, what do you do to make sure that each one of these things runs like a well-oiled machine? Yes, a well-oiled machine. It doesn't have to be perfect. And if you're someone that's all about the people, hire someone to do those systems and tracking for you. That's what bookkeepers are for. That's what virtual assistants are for. Because if you're good at the people, do the people. If you're good at the systems, do the systems. That is very important, because when you know how you communicate, you know how you're thinking and the way that you're doing things, and you match that up with how you want to increase your leads or your bookings or your selling, that's going to make the difference. So systems and tracking, where most people think, I just want to go out and see the people. If you don't keep track of it, some will fall through the cracks. And there's nothing worse than realizing that you forgot to call somebody back, or somebody was ready for their service or their product and you didn't follow through. Those are things that really can impact us. All right, so check out these statistics. 2% of sales and booking appointments happen in the first contact. Only 2%. So that means if you pick up a phone or you reach out to somebody, only 2% will actually have a follow through. 3% happen at the second contact, 4% at the third contact, 10% at the fourth contact, and 81% at the fifth contact. How many people will do up to the fifth? How many people will do that? So 48% of the people give up after the first contact. Now, again, if you're somebody who you're always afraid to bother people, or you're feeling that you're pushy, or that you're feeling that you're kind of, going into a situation where you don't feel confident enough, that's why that first contact is, I'm going to just, I don't want to bother them. Maybe they're having dinner now, or maybe they already have this service and they don't need it. Subconscious. And that is what's going to, it's going to end the deal. When you don't ask, it's always a no. When you don't ask, it's always a no. So here, 24% give up after the second try, 12% give up after the third try. So one of the things that I did is I created an ability to text and voicemail and email at the same time. I would send an email and then I send a quick text. If you're like me, you probably see a text quicker. I want you to check your email. That's 2 touches. And so I always teach, and I do, it's the 7 touches. The 7 touches is that's when you have things happening, because sometimes people right there can't respond to you. And if you're somebody that's about getting job done and people aren't responding to you, then you might feel frustrated. You now might project, if you keep calling saying, well, I haven't heard back from you, don't want to respond that way. You want to say, you probably just haven't had time to look at the email, but I'm working here and I just thought I would shoot you another quick reminder. I'd love to get your feedback on that. There are ways of touching people where you're not bothering them, because sometimes they truly are in a crisis or something. And I can't tell you how many people who said, I'm so glad you were pleasantly persistent, because life was really crazy and I knew I really wanted to be in touch. And sometimes I will leave a text saying, maybe you changed your mind, and that's okay. But if you haven't and you're just busy, just know that I'm here. Early in the pandemic, it was all about just asking how people were doing and giving them hope and giving them a distraction. A lot of things that we did was just to keep them distracted and make them know that there was a little place in the world that could be happy. Now it's about touching them, because people have shifted in such a way that it's like mind-blowing. I don't know if you've all heard about this Great Resignation. And so this is a phenomenon that has happened, and it's pretty crazy. And so I happened to come across this review that this person did in Harvard Business Review. And they did an in-depth analysis over 9 million employees and 4,000 companies. And what they found, according to the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics, 4 million Americans quit their jobs in July 2021. 4 million Americans quit their job. Can you imagine that? Now, some people, the stimulus checks, unemployment checks were more than what they were making at their regular job. So think about it. I mean, would you want to keep waitressing, making $10 an hour and then tips when you could just kind of look at things differently? But here's the key: between 30 and 45, that's where they had the increase was the highest. But those between 20 and 25, not really, it kind of changed, but they were already increased. 20 to 25-year-olds now, they're not lasting more than 2 or 3 years at a job. To them, it actually doesn't look good. Employers are even saying that to them, that it doesn't look good if you stay at the same job. My husband has been with the same company over 40 years. Like, who does that anymore? Here's another, is that when you look at between the 60 and 70 mark, those resignation rates lowered because they're writing out now. Now they saw there are people who had businesses and they were like, you know what, let's retire. Let's get this PPP loan and sell the business. And that's it. We're done. Like, it's kind of like going off to the sunset. This phenomenon, I cannot tell you, is the number one thing that you want to target in your business. If you want to increase your sales, you want to increase the amount of people that either you want to bring in as employees or you want to bring in as clients, these are the target market. How can these people fit into your model? When you think like that, you create, knowing what you are, right? How you communicate, what your style is, how you perform, and the target of what you want to focus on. When you put all those together and you have something like this phenomenon, because, you know, people aren't about money and having a high income anymore. Number one thing is they want to just know how they can have an impact. Can you imagine? The pandemic helped people to say, what am I running around in this kind of a lifestyle? Why am I doing these things? How many people have decided to become entrepreneurs during the pandemic because they saw, like, oh my gosh, like, I can, let me go do this. People are looking for that. The key is do your research. Understand that by doing your research and knowing which people you want to contact, that's what's going to make a difference. Now, this to me is, I put it all in one nutshell here for you. This is, you know, if you want to be strategic and really figure out, how do I get from here to here? You're like, Ileana, how do I make sense of this? Number one, get out of your head, because if you're too much thinking, you could overthink things, and figure out a way of getting everything out, maybe on paper or maybe on the computer, where you could see the big picture. And then you could start going in on the details. So research your industry thoroughly, what it's about. In my industry, it became about the convenience. I was in a lot of women's bathrooms. I figured out, send samples in the mail. We'd hop on a Zoom and I would do the same presentation I would do face to face, but now I was doing it in the comfort of their home. They were in their bathrooms, putting it on, feeling good, making them feel safe, making them feel special, giving them hope. It was brilliant. I didn't come up with the idea. Someone else had come up with the idea. And so I just took that. So understand the research in your industry, understand the industry very well. And what is your ideal client? Now, identify the ways to get into this resignation and relaunching phenomenon, right? Because there's people who really are looking for a change, and your service or your company might be that. Create a customer base with 100,000 plus in mind. I wish 25 years ago that I looked at having an organization with over 500,000 people. I really wish, because every time I grew, I had to change my systems. I had to change the way I was doing things. Think big, like, what is the maximum you would want? Unlimited, and create your systems and the way that you're going to approach getting clients according to that. Learn your DISC. Learn your strengths finder, the values, all that before you create your action plan, because that could be a deterrent. There are some people who, especially the conscientious, where it's so much detail that you can get so bogged with the detail, and make sure that each detail is correct. You're missing opportunities because you're too caught in the detail. So understand all of that first, then create your action plan, and then execute it. So identify your target market for leads, for customers, your brand ambassadors. These are people who love your product or love your service and can help promote it. That's really what a brand ambassador is all about. And they're willing to help you. When you share your goal with somebody, they want to help you. They want to be part of you winning. And so have that be part of your pitch to them, and what it is that it means for them to be involved in your organization, whether it's products or whether it's service. Identifying also the ways you want to connect. Some people are still going to be virtual. Some people are still going to be in person, and hybrid now is where you could have both. So I literally now could have a couple people in their bathroom and a couple women right in front of me, and I can do one presentation and it could be to both. Like, who would have ever thought that could have happened before the pandemic? I never could have. I mean, unless somebody was across the country. The way that the pandemic opened up how we could reach people across the country, across the world, we could be connected like we've never been connected before. So with that comes some difficulties, because now you have to make sure that you're personalizing and you're making sure that people don't feel like they're just a number. But imagine if you could really identify what's the best way to connect with leads and customers and your brand ambassadors. Sharpening your people skills and increasing your communication. Remember, speaking in their style is what makes a difference, not yours. And we tend to always want to just talk the way we feel. Like, I want to make sure I give her all the information because otherwise I feel like I'm deceiving her. However, sometimes if you give too much information, you kill the deal, and you don't want to do that. Mary Kay, for us, always said, make people feel special, like as if they have a sign around them that says, make me feel important. Here's the thing, relationship building and the way that we're working with our customers and our coworkers and our employees are really about making them feel like they have a purpose and they are fulfilling something for you as well. Because when people feel appreciated and people feel that they're part of something bigger than themselves, they become more committed. They're all in. Can you imagine if all your customers felt like you were the one and they're all in with you? Can you imagine how that feels, knowing that you're having an impact? And that is by having those relationships with them. These are everything that I started to use, all of these different platforms. And again, at the end, I'm going to give you all of these and I can give you different links and things like that. But there were things that I needed to learn on the computer, which I didn't know before, things that I needed to services and platforms and things that I used. And so I wrote them all down. It was actually amazing. Or I would say maybe I was only using a third of these before. And it was really amazing for me to see how much they've had an impact. I just want to share a couple of them. One is called StreamYard. And StreamYard is a virtual platform. It's kind of like Zoom. Zoom, without a doubt, has been great. There's something that we use called Working Live. Working Live was a company that they basically created a corporate account so that it's unlimited recording and all of that. And it's something like $15 a month. It's crazy for Zoom. And you have unlimited storage for the recording. But here's the thing, is that StreamYard is very similar to that, but it's web-based, which means it's very secure. You're not going into this whole big network. It's very web-based and very secure. You could have, up to 10 people there. But here's what I loved is you could actually create a broadcast, record it, and then you can have it go live into your Facebook, any private group at any time, and even multiple private groups. So I've officially learned to bilocate. I have officially now can do one presentation, whether I want to do it live right there and go into 5 or 8 groups, or I just want to do a recording and then later on put it in so it looks like I'm going live. That was a game changer for me because it was very difficult to every single night have something going on. So that was incredible. A video graphics that I have, Video Fizz. This is a company that worked a lot with realtors, and what they do is they do video reels, but you create it. So they kind of have templates, and then you could add your own video. So doing product demonstrations or just pictures, and then it clips it all together with music, and in the end promotes it. So it looks like a commercial. That has been a game changer because when I'm introducing a product, that's a way of doing it, of just showing all the different features of that product, and it's coming to them and it's entertaining. Google Drive and doing surveys and doing documents and forms, all of these things, great way of getting information from people. So when I have a lead on someone that's going to be a customer, I send her a form, fill out all this information about your skin. And then from that, I'm getting email, I'm getting address, I'm getting all of her skin type, and then I can send the samples and stuff to her. It's all right there. And then finally, pirate ship. I did not have to leave my house to mail any products, and everything was mailed out. Pirate ship is a program where you can print your stamps. So whatever your postage is for your packages. And it's a little bit cheaper than the post office, but here's the thing. So let's say I have 10 packages. I just go right into United States Postal Service, free pickup. They pick it up the next day. I say, it's going to be on my front porch. Mailman comes, he walks to my front porch, takes my packages. Can you imagine? The only thing I had to go to the post office for was to buy stamps. Everything else was done. And these were the kinds of things that I really learned by doing all of these things here. These are the things that I learned to utilize in my business, because it streamlined my business and made it a lot easier for me, so that I didn't have to spend extra time doing these things, because now I couldn't have someone coming into the house to work anymore. I needed everyone virtual. So these are things that I wanted to share with you that are important. And finally here, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenge, wish for more wisdom. And Jim Rohn really did an incredible job in really having you look at the bigger picture. I was going to end with a video, but I want to make sure that we have enough time for talk, the questions and answers and whatnot. And so when you send that email, I'll send this really motivational video that I play all the time. And it's really about understanding, are you doing this because you're obligated, or are you doing this because you can? What's going through your mind? How positive are you thinking when you wake up every morning? Is it doom and gloom? Because I will tell you, I don't drink coffee, even though it sounds like when I'm talking that I do. I don't drink coffee, but I wake up immediately ready to roll. Joy in my heart, a pep in my step. That's just who I've always been. It's about hope. Even no matter things happen negatively, I always look at, what am I supposed to learn from that, and how do I move on? That's how I'm wired. Learn how to find that joy. Learn how to, every night before you go to bed, just know you did your best. You don't need to do it all. So if your goal was to contact 10 people that day and you only contacted 5, just say, I did my best. I did my best. Don't try the next day to now do 15 and try to catch up. Catch up, I promise, never works. Keep up will keep you in a positive frame of mind and will make you more productive that way. So just always thinking, have I done my best, or just do my best? That's really what it's about. I hope that you found this valuable, and there's a lot of nuggets in here. I am going to let you know that my website is temporarily in construction right now. So the link that you have on that flyer is going to bring you to a landing page. And so the website should be up really soon. But if you want to receive the copy of the presentation, and I'll include that video in there, or any information that you need from me, just email me at the Ileana's Inspiration LLC @gmail.com, and I will send all that information. And I'm really thrilled that I was able to kick off this 6-week series, because I know that the next speakers are all going to be about giving you those tools, specific tools that you're going to need and launch. And sometimes you're going to create those, and sometimes you're going to hire people to do it. Because if you're not good at doing those things, hire somebody to do that, because they're looking for a job too, right? And this way you're always helping other people. And when you help others, you help yourself. So I'm going to open it up now for questions and answers.
Great. Thanks, Ileana. There's a lot of excellent material there, and I know people have lots of questions, so we'll use the remaining time that we have and take as many questions as we can up until the top of the hour. Just as a reminder, if you want to type in a question, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And as I say, we'll just take as many as we can. The first one goes back to it's from William, and it goes back to the statistics that you were putting on about people giving up on at various times in the cycle. And William had a question questioning that 10% give up on their 4th or 5th try. Maybe you could just elaborate more on that.
Sure. So basically what that means is that there are people, when you're getting on a call to try to reach out to people, there are people who feel when they're going to make the call that they're kind of having this conversation in their head, like, oh, they probably don't want anything, or they might feel like I'm bothering them. And so what that slide was basically saying is that people that give up in continuing the call, because they're making the assumption that it's not going to work. So those statistics show really the bottom line is reach out at least 5 to 7 times. Don't give up before that. That's really what it's all about.
And actually, Michael had a question on this as well. He's saying, in the age of over information and being on a bazillion email lists, I'd imagine even 3 touches, let alone 7, can be crossing many people's boundaries. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that one of the things that's important is that when you decide and you're looking at how you're going to communicate with your customers, let them know how often you send an email. And you can say, every month I'm going to send a newsletter, and every week, a tip of the day. Make things so that people are prepared for it. And also, I always let people know if it's something that you're not interested in, you can just delete it. But I'm going to send out to everybody, because I would always be afraid to leave somebody behind. So I think that if you give people upfront what your contact regularity, like how often you're going to contact them, that's going to help them know that. Or that's something that you find out from them. Would you prefer to hear once a month with my newsletter, or would you like to know like every minute things that are hot? Because left brainers are not going to want so much. Right brainers are going to want it all. So again, if you identify what their style is, and then how you're going to be. So here's another thing. If you were to create, let's say, 4 different email campaigns, one for the people that are more like dominant and just kind of want black and white bullet points, or people that want all the detail, or people that just want the colorful and happiness, and then people that are really about security based. If you can create 4 different ways of how you communicate and identify those clients and present the emails according to their style, your hit rate's going to be super high. That requires a little bit of work, right? Because you have to kind of have that background. But if you can do that, where you're presenting your information to line up with that style, you'll be in good shape.
That's great. Excellent advice. Michael has another question, follow-up. Do you have any suggestions for practical steps on how new companies with social missions can start to onboard brand ambassadors across the country, be it on college campuses or elsewhere? So it's really a question around brand ambassadors.
Yeah, I think, the brand ambassadors, it's really on who you know and who they know. And so we talk about different tiers, right? The ideal thing in your business is to have like tier 5. So I had the other day, I had somebody who 10 years ago was a customer, and then she referred me to somebody who became a customer and referred me to, and all of a sudden the 4th person now says to this one girl, oh my gosh, you should call Ileana. You have to call Ileana. That's something I did 10 years ago that made a difference. And so what you want to do is, through people that already know you, that's the ideal place. Now, when you're going to do a big event, like if you're going to go to a college campus or something like that, have something where you can engage the people right there, because you're selling yourself first. You're not selling your product or your service. You're selling yourself first. So, for example, they have something called the wheel of names. It's I forgot to put that on that list. And the wheel of names is you put in people's names, and it literally has a wheel. And on my iPad, they hit the button and it sees what they won. So instead of putting names of people who won, I put free sample, or you get a 10-minute consultation or whatever. And that button, when people come to the table, that's what they all want to hit the button. I like always having chocolate on the table, because I think chocolate, I know for women, it lures them to the table. So I think creating what's going to make a sensation to make people feel like, oh, I don't want to miss out on that, or what's going on there. Those are the kinds of things that you want to do, finding the brand ambassadors. First people are the ones who love your service or your products. Like, that's where you start. And even if you were to ask them, I need your help, and I am trying to create a really incredible incentive program. And so if you were not my customer, what would make you love what I'm offering you? They can be very insightful in helping you with that. And then always asking, who do you know? Who do you know who's overworked, overcommitted, needs a little pampering, or needs whatever service you're offering? That's how it's communicating, letting people know I'm your person. So I think that's key in really growing your brand ambassadors. And if you can do it globally, like, or even nationally, it's awesome. But start with the people that you know and who they know.
That's great. Excellent advice again. We have a question from Marianne, who, first of all, is thanking you for a great presentation. But how did your customers and clients react when you made shifts in your business?
So I think part of what happens is it's your attitude. And so what you're seeing now, this excitement, that's what I was doing every night. And I think that was number one. And I also really approached it in the beginning as being just caring. I think that was the key. People don't care how much you know, they want to know how much you care. So that having others' interest in mind and always being others focused, what's in it for them? That's been something that, and that's ingrained in the Mary Kay world. That's how we work. It's what's in it for them. What are they going to get out of it? And I think people will do things for you for three reasons. One, it helps you some way. They get something out of it, or it's a social situation. And they may want to have that ability to engage. So for me, if somebody wanted to come on a Zoom and do my little pampering, great. But some people, they didn't want to come on camera. So I just sent it to them. And then I created a video on that video fizz, and they were able to watch it and do it themselves. So identifying what do they want, communicating and asking them what they want, and you give them the way that they want it. That's the key. That whole thing of knowing yourself and knowing them. If you're going to get anything today, that's what you really want to perfect.
Just as a reminder, we do have time for a few more questions. So if you want to ask a question, please use the Q&A button. And maybe while we're waiting, Ileana, I just had a question that myself around taking advantage of the Great Resignation and the relaunch. Do you have any examples of how people might get at that target market? It's not exactly an easy one to define. So.
Right. So a couple of different things that I have been doing is creating groups on Facebook. So for me, for example, I started doing a birthday bash, and a birthday bash, all it is looking on Facebook to see whose birthday is going to be this next month, create a group, and then do post presentations, tutorials, and things like that. But there'd be people that maybe I've not really connected with, or somebody that maybe was a customer a long, long time ago before the pandemic. And so I started to utilize that as a way of kind of touching people. And so what you want to do is you want to figure out with the Great Resignation. So for me, this 30 to 45-year-old, I'm guessing that's people with child rearing age, right? Like kids that are in school. And so moms had to stay home. And so they need a little bit of pampering, because, it's not that easy to be home 24/7 with kids. They make you a little nuts. There are some moms who really should go to work. And so for me, that target of that age group, that's going to be something that I'm really interested in. The 20 to 25-year-olds, because they're the ones who are going to know a lot of people. That's where the networking happens. And then the older people, these are people who are ready to start taking care of themselves. And so that's how I looked at being able to look at the Great Resignation. If you're a financial advisor, for example, oh my gosh, this is the time. It scared the bejesus out of people when they looked at, we could not have a job tomorrow. They didn't think about that. And so in a financial advisor situation, you want to get connected with people and families. Now, financial advisor can't just call people, right? You need to get referrals. So those are the people that you want to work with, the people that you know. My financial advisor, what he's actually always doing is sending stuff in the mail to me, so that I have the safety and security and knowing that he's on it. Great. My husband's financial advisor is creating group events. My daughter happens to have a baking business, and she's been doing virtual classes. She had to pivot, and she started doing classes. In fact, the Monroe Library hosts her, even though she lives in Waterbury, Vermont. And so she is one that when she created doing this, the financial advisor says, you know what, I would love to pay you to come and do 6 programs for my clients to make them feel important. So do you think a client who is getting something like that is going to think about someone when they say, oh, I need to figure out what I'm going to do for a retirement plan? Oh, you got to talk to so-and-so. Those are the kinds of things that if you can get creative on how you can get in front of somebody who might need your services, or you might need them, because if you're looking for someone to do some bookkeeping, for example, right? Some of these moms, they could do that when they put the kids down. Now they're home and they can do that office work virtually. Those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about, how to create with the Great Resignation, of how you could fit it in. That's great. I think that's all the time we have for questions today. Just a reminder to everyone of the recording of the webinar, and it will be available in the next day or so on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, under on-demand webinars. And the next live SCORE webinar will be Wednesday, February 23rd at noon. And the topic is Google Tools for Optimizing Your SEO, with Nalini Gulzaran presenting. Again, if you'd like to take advantage of free individual counseling, you can do that
by using the link that we showed earlier or going to our website and clicking on Request a Mentor. I'd also like to thank the Monroe Chamber of Commerce and the Edith Wheeler Memorial Library for their help in planning the webinar with SCORE today. And just a reminder that this is the first of 6 webinars in the Build Your Business series, and you can obtain more details by going to the website there. You can see them all up on the screen, but you can also go to the website www.monroectchamber.com/events. On behalf of SCORE, thank you all for attending today's live webinar. And in closing, a big thank you to Ileana for presenting today. And stay well, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.